For 5 years. Previously to working to CARE, I was an immigration attorney, and I worked also on international development issues in the Middle East. I've been working with CARE now for the past 2 years, since 2012, and I feel like I have a lot to offer on the conversation about the Muslim community's legal rights. And that's what the focus is going to be on today, interactions with law enforcement. So let's go ahead and get started. Just a quick background, if anyone's not familiar with CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Basically, our vision is to advocate for the Muslim community. We do this in 3 different ways. We educate the community about their rights by empowering them. We also create a dialogue between different groups so that the issues pertinent and relevant to the Muslim community get into the media attention. And the third way we do it is through the justice system and advocacy work, which is my specialty. Because I'm an attorney, I focus on litigation. Brother Mohammed al-Fadadi, does everything. I have a small job. Okay, so let's get started. Everyone knows, of course, state and local police and FBI. This is just a quick background check. We're not going to spend too much time on this. Everyone knows, I'm sure, state and local police, their jurisdiction is only to enforce state and local laws. You have the state Bureau of Investigation, that's the whole state, or the state police or state sheriff, that is the whole state. But then you have local police like Irvington, Newark, Teaneck, any of these cities, these are local police. Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, has 56 offices in the United States. FBI, what do? They enforce federal laws. What are federal laws? Basically major crimes, cases such as drug trafficking, bank robbery, fraud, illegal gambling, and major violent crime. And then government corruption. The third one I put there, counterterrorism. This is relatively new. When I say new, 2001, 2002. But they were mandated this under the U.S. Patriot Act. This empowered them. Department of Homeland Security empowered the FBI to become more of a counterterrorism organization than it was previously. The FBI works with the Drug Enforcement Agency, CPB, the Customs and Border Protection. Anytime you've traveled in and out of the country, these are the people that question you if you do get questioned. The Bureau of Alcohol, Firearms, and Tobacco. And then I put the quotations, Central Intelligence Agency. If anyone's wondering why did I put it in parentheses, because they're not supposed to work with Central Intelligence Agency. CIA does not have jurisdiction in the United States, does not have jurisdiction to work in the United States and enforce any laws in the United States. This is Central Intelligence, works outside of U.S. borders. So why is this collaboration all of a sudden taking place? Why are they working so close together? So we're going to explore that a little bit further. So I call it the new FBI. The new FBI is in the post-9/11 world where essentially CIA individuals are training FBI officers on tactics they use abroad. But the problem with that is the FBI is in charge of enforcing U.S. laws and uphold the U.S. Constitution most of all. They are in charge of enforcing the U.S. Constitution. Guess what? The CIA is not. CIA doesn't care about your rights. They're not. That's their function. There's no Civil Rights Act. There's no Equal Rights Act for CIA. So this becomes problematic. These next 3 bullet points are very important. Because of this CIA involvement to the FBI and these tactics, they developed something called the Bureau of Domestic Investigations and Operations Guide. Essentially what they did was, which is what the CIA does, is they are now going into communities and groups without any suspicion of crime and investigating or assessing them and collecting them into a database based on your race, ethnicity, religion. You're not supposed to do this under the U.S. Constitution. But they're finding ways around it. These are new tactics that the CIA are implementing, Department of Homeland Security is permitting, and the U.S. Patriot Act is permitting. This is a new evolution of the FBI. The next thing is domain management. You see that? Invented by CIA analyst Philip Mudd. This is a public data. Basically what they did is they gathered based on people's public records about where they live, what their last name is, entry and exit records from the United States, their visa, their passport, and they literally have mapped the United States to say this is where the Muslims are. This is where the predominant Guyanese Muslims are. The predominant Syrian Muslims go to this masjid. And they did this across the entire country. The next thing is called the Delta. To go into these communities where there's no suspicion of crime at all, and they can't get a warrant, of course, because we're going to explore a warrant, what that is later. But to go into those communities, they've created a very elaborate database of informants. An informant is someone that's not a police officer, that is paid on the Federal Bureau of Investigation's payroll to go into communities and report back to them, essentially spy. This database is so elaborate, I cannot explain to you. They literally have people mapped out about what their backgrounds are, what languages they speak, what their fee would be, and where they can locate them and send them into which communities. And they have it set up that like, oh, well, there's a masjid we want to investigate in New Jersey. Well, we have a brother that we used before. He speaks Arabic really well, so then let's send him. And then his fee is, reasonable, so we'll send him. And they call him and they say, and he lives in Texas or something like that, or California. They're like, we're going to pay for you. You need to go and investigate in New Jersey. And the whole system is set up like they can literally, just like you Google search something, you type in, I need someone that has these aptitudes, language, ethnicity, even their performance, that they've been good at this job on spying on Muslims, send him. This guy is very good. I just gave a presentation at An-Nur Academy, and the kids there asked me, why would a Muslim betray the community? Why would a Muslim do this? This very, very, very adorable kid. I was touched by the question. They're confused. Why would a Muslim ever want to do this? And they're paid very well. 6 figures, especially if they get results. If they don't get results, then they're not paid very well. This is important. Sting operations. Everyone heard of the Fort Dix, what happened, Fort Dix 5, and that operation? This is essentially what this is that those people that may have some biased opinions, may even hold some extremist opinions against the United States government, but not otherwise would ever act on it, the FBI is empowering them to act on it. They are saying, oh, this guy said this on Facebook, this guy, he reads this article or this news on the internet, I think he's a risk, people should go, and then they send the informant in, the informant checks it out, and then the informant starts leading him on. He says, this America, they're bad, we should do something about it. Let's bomb a bridge. Let's bomb a military installation. Let's go get some guns. Most of the time, in every one of these scenarios, the brother's like, I'm busy, brother. I was just saying that. No, we should. And the informant is pushing him along. No, come on, let's do it. He's like, no, brother, I'm busy. I have other responsibilities. Really, I just was venting my anger. And so he keeps pushing him, driving him. He says, well, you're not a good Muslim. You don't really believe what you are saying then, if you don't act on it. He says, okay, who do you have? He's like, I have someone that's Al-Qaeda trained. And he has a weapon that you should take a look at and see if you can buy it. I'll get you a good rate on it. This is the informant convincing him to do it. And then when they meet with him, it's an FBI undercover officer acting like he's Al-Shabaab or Al-Qaeda or something like that. It's a completely fake bomb. One of the situations, the stories that we know is the weapon he looked at was a car battery or something like that, something that goes in a car. He doesn't even know this is a bomb or not. He says, this is a good bomb, you should do this. So they push him along, but it's not enough. You can't charge someone. You cannot convict them of a crime if you push them along. That's not enough. To conspire to commit a crime is not enough for them. So you have to have some type of act. They need that informant to do such a good job that that person makes some overt act in pursuit of the crime that he's making him do, that he's persuading him to do. And as soon as that happens, as soon as he pushes a button, exchanges money, the FBI swoop in and they arrest him. Now, if anyone's ever heard the name entrapment, everyone heard of this word entrapment, you would think this is entrapment. But a lot of that defense is not working, brothers and sisters. Good attorneys are trying the entrapment defense. It is not working. 240 of the cases that come in off of sting operations, 120 are convicted, and they plead guilty, and the other rest take a lesser charge. And they try attorneys, it doesn't work out. There's literally such a low percentage rate, it's not even worth mentioning where the defense worked. So this is where we are. Okay, that's the background. That this is how I am here to inform the community and help you to understand what your rights are. Everyone's heard of the amendments, the Bill of Rights. The Fourth Amendment here, everyone's maybe heard about the protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. Okay. Essentially, this is done in two ways, where a police officer can search you or not, or an FBI officer can search you or not. And you're probably going to find these standards very silly. Reasonable suspicion. Anyone heard of this? Stop and frisk in New York City? Anyone hear about this case in the news? Anyone? Okay. It was also known as Terry stop. This is the way we learn about it in law school. The standard is so low for a cop to suspect you that essentially the definition in law, in case law, in textbooks, is that based on the officer's experience, skill set, and knowledge of particular crimes, if he sees you and feels a crime is taking place, he can stop you and question you. So this is what they're having problems with in New York, because they feel like if a black brother is walking in Harlem at some hour on the street in front of a shop that's maybe been burglarized 2 years ago, it's literally enough basis to ask him, hey, where are you going? What are you up to? The next standard permits them to do even more than just question you. The next standard is called probable cause. Anyone heard of this? Probable cause? Anyone watch those Law and Order shows or anything? Probable cause basically is to show that more likely than not a crime is taking place. And if the officer has some type of evidence based on his knowledge of the events and incidences around him, he can search you. He can search your person, meaning your pockets, to ask you to empty your pockets and everything like that. And if you are in a public place, he can search the area around you, such as your automobile. So we're going to go into what happens if they have probable cause. Everyone's heard of what a warrant is, right? So a warrant is basically issued if they have probable cause, where a judge or a magistrate said, yes, based on the evidence you've provided, you can search this person's home. All right? So a search warrant is then issued to search for some item, something. They're not looking for you. They're looking for something specific, and they can enter into your home to do this. The next one is arrest warrant. Makes sense. They're looking for a person, and they can arrest you then. Bench warrant is like a temporary arrest where they're just going to present you before the judge to adjudicate your rights. Don't worry about the warrant. We're going to go into that a lot further, because that slide is going to tell you what to do if there is a warrant present. Okay. Fifth Amendment rights, everyone maybe have heard of, is freedom from self-incrimination, to admit guilt. They cannot make you admit guilt. And one focus that they do that is, in court, they can't make you come to the stand and, give testimony if you don't want to. So that's your choice. Everyone's heard of Miranda rights, I assume. You have the right to remain silent. You have a right to an attorney. If you can't afford one, we will provide you with an attorney. Have you understood these rights as they have been read to you? Basically, they have to say this to you at any time you're arrested before interrogation. Interrogation is questioning about the suspicion of crime that you are being, charged with. Whatever suspicion of crime they have for you, before they interrogate you, they have to say this to you. But this is the tricky part. If they don't say it to you, and you speak on your own without being told your Miranda rights, they can still use what you said that you volunteered against you in court. The only thing that the Miranda rights really protects you from is self-incrimination. So if you say something like, I did it, and they didn't give you Miranda rights, it won't be admissible. But if you say something like, yeah, I was there at 8. Oh yeah, I know that guy. He runs the local shop. That can be used in court. So Miranda's not even a great protection. So what do I always tell all my clients? If at any time you're arrested, and at any moment they want to ask you a question, you have to say, I invoke my right to remain silent, and, big and, right to counsel, right to attorney. If you don't say right to attorney, they can still come back later and question you. You have to say right to an attorney. I have to have a right to an attorney. If you don't include that part, they can come back. But as soon as you say that, they have to stop. So even if you guys don't have an attorney or anything, just say, I want to invoke my right to an attorney, and they'll assign you one. Or just call the care office. This is really important. Okay, this is now we get into the practical issues of what happens if you are stopped by police. If you're stopped in public, meaning not your home, first, always remain calm. Don't get excited. Don't give them any reason to arrest you. Don't help them. Ask whether you are being detained or free to leave. This happens in the stop and frisk when they say, hey, sir, I have a few questions for you. Again, what is the rule? You don't want to speak to them. So you say, officer, are you detaining me or am I free to leave? He's like, I just want to ask you a few questions. And sometimes they'll be really friendly. I just have a few questions if you don't mind. Officer, are you detaining me or am I free to leave? Use this language. This is the best language. Oh, no, I don't have time for this. No, you guys are bad. I watched the CARE lecture and I know how evil you guys are. Don't say that. Just say, officer, are you detaining me or am I free to leave? Okay, what happens is, essentially, by saying that, and then they continue to question you without any grounds, you can use that later to file a lawsuit against the police department because you have stated your rights. And at that point, if the officer is smart, she'll be like, no, I'm not detaining you. Don't even let him finish, just keep walking. Just keep going. Mind your own business. Don't start a fight. Are you detaining me or am I free to leave? Oh, no. Okay, thank you. Have a good day. All right. Always recall the names and badges of the officers. Always. You need this. Because if they do violate the law and they do violate your Fourth Amendment rights, you want to be able to sue them. You want to be able to do something about it later. This is very important. Okay, so stop while driving. This happens a lot too. I get a lot of phone calls about this. Again, remain calm. Whatever it is, remain calm. If you are being stopped for a traffic violation or whatever reason you're being stopped, lower the window. Don't wait for him to say lower the window. Turn on the cabin lights, the lights on the inside right away. Put your hands on the wheel and have your license and registration ready to go. Put it on the seat next to you or put it in your lap and just have your hands on the wheel. This is a good way to avoid suspicion from the officer. Don't give him any reason to, ask you to step out or anything. Make it as smoothly a transition as possible. This is actually really good advice because as soon as they see you do that, they're like, this guy knows. And he's not, he is not suspicious of anything. Okay. They can ask you to get out of the car. Did everyone know that? Officers have a right to ask you to get out of the car at any moment. Do you know that? Because driving is a privilege. It is not a fundamental right. It is not a legal right. For anything, they can ask you to step out of the car. Now, what are you going to do? You're going to resist? You're going to be like, why? Why are you asking me to get out of the car? No, you're not going to do that. You're going to remain calm, and you're going to step out of the car. Do not physically contest. That's the last thing you want to do. Again, don't give them any reason. Okay. If they ask you, can I search? If he's asking you, not demanding because they can't demand, he's asking you, can I look inside your trunk? Can I look inside your glove box? Can I look inside that container? Can I look inside the car? Can. Question. That's your line. That is the line. Officers, I do not consent to searches. With the kids, I made them say it. I'm not going to make you guys repeat it after me. But it's so important, just this exact line. Don't change it. Don't say anything different. Officers, I do not consent to searches. And if he still searches the car, you stated your rights. And again, you remember the badge number, you remember his name, and you use that later to file a lawsuit. Okay. There we go. Here we go, search warrant. Essentially, as I stood before, a judge or a magistrate issued it based on some evidence that detectives or police officers have provided. This is they're searching for a particular item. You have to cooperate if they have a search warrant. You don't have the time to check the search warrant and say that it's completely valid. You don't really have that time. If they have a search warrant and they say it's valid, you have to cooperate. What are you going to do? You're going to remain calm. Do not obstruct justice. If they want to go into a particular room, if they're looking for some particular item, you're like, hey, you can't go in there. Don't do it. Not a good idea. What I put in there was searches without warrants. And there's two of them. The automobile exception that I told you about, they don't need a search warrant to search your car. All they need is probable cause, which I told you the standard is not very high. And then lawful arrest, if they're arresting you, they have the right to search you and ask you questions that only involve risk to the officers. There's nothing, they're not going to ask you questions, anything extra than that, or they're not supposed to, but they can search your pockets to make sure you don't have any knives or guns if they search, they don't need a warrant for that. Okay, arrest warrant, common, makes sense. Again, came from a judge or a magistrate, issued it based on probable cause. What are you going to do? You remain calm. Do not physically resist. Very bad idea. And again, what are you going to say? Do not speak with them. Big N right there. Immediately request an attorney. Everyone heard of a subpoena? A subpoena, now this is not a warrant. A subpoena is basically asking you to appear before court and give testimony. It's another court order. You have to cooperate. All three of these things, if I'm not being clear, all three of these, search warrant, arrest warrant, subpoena, you have to cooperate. It's not voluntary. So in providing a subpoena and going to court, you have some rights to request an attorney. But guess what? An attorney cannot come in the courtroom with you, giving grand jury testimony, to give testimony. So with other clients, what I've done is he goes in, he may answer a few questions, and if he doesn't feel comfortable with the next question, I tell him to come outside. I'm in the hallway. He tells me what's going on, then I tell him what to say, and he goes back in. Because I can't be in there because he's not on trial. The right to attorney has not been assigned because he's not on trial. This is a little bit technical, but, subpoena, you have to cooperate. That's all you need to know. It's a court order. Okay, this is, I think, what is of most value to this presentation today. Voluntary interviews used by FBI. This is essentially them without a warrant, without probable cause, without reasonable suspicion. They want to talk to you based on some investigation that they have, whether it's of you or people that you've associated with or places that you have traveled to. So they just want to come and talk to you. What are you going to do? You're going to remain calm. And you are not going to permit entry. I put this in because we had a bunch of cases where FBI officers are very, very friendly when they want to meet with you voluntarily. When they don't have a warrant, they want to get your cooperation any way they can. So like, this is just a standard meeting that I'm requesting. We just want to come talk to you. They might even ask you for tea, take you out to lunch. And so when they're talking to you, I've had situations that they're saying, may I come in? They're literally walking into the house, into the front door. The sister didn't even have a chance to say, whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, she did it eventually, and she was very smart to know that, no, you can't come in. Because they're going to literally be saying, let's say this line right here is that door. May I come in? You didn't give me a second to even say, no, you're already in. So you got to say no really quick. No, you can't come in. You don't have a warrant. And then the biggest point, do not elect to speak with them without consulting an attorney. Everyone in just about 100% of the community that I have helped has no criminal wrongdoing at all. They've done nothing wrong. And so they feel like, I'll talk to him. I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, I'll just clear this up really quick. I say, brother, it's not a good idea. I know you did nothing wrong. Trust me, I believe you more than anyone else will believe you. I know you did nothing wrong. But the problem is that if you meet with them, you may misstate a certain fact that they're looking for. You may make a misrepresentation while speaking to them. I was there at 6:30, and then later they find out you were there at 6. And then they come back to you and say, hey, why did you say 6:30? Oh, I was, okay, you're going to have to appear in court. Here's a subpoena. You don't want to go through that headache. You did nothing wrong. I know it. I know you did nothing wrong. But you still have to protect your rights. It's not a good idea to speak with them without an attorney. If you really, really still want to speak with them, at least have an attorney present to do it. But you don't have to speak with them. Say no is the best and safest answer, or the even better answer is call an attorney and have them tell the FBI officer no on your behalf. Let the attorney communicate to them so that you don't have to say anything. And I get this call a lot. Right? We get this call a lot. Yeah, see, Brother Falali shaking his head. So you've been with us for a month, and how many calls we already gotten? A good number of calls already on this. Okay. Like I said, they're very friendly. Don't get convinced. This is something none of you may know, and a lot of people don't know this. Law enforcement is under no obligation to tell you the truth when they're investigating you. Until you are charged, they can say anything to make you volunteer information. Has anyone here ever heard of that? Did anyone here ever know that? Police officers don't have to tell you the truth. We have cases where he's pulling you over and he's like, I want to search your car. And he says, no, officer, I don't consent to searches. You have to let me search your car. You know, if you don't let me search your car, it's going to be a lot harder for you. And then he'll take you out of the car. He'll make you sit down on the sidewalk and make your life a little bit more difficult. And he'll keep lying to you and persuading you and harassing you and intimidating you. You know, this will go a lot smoother if you let me just search your car, if you open up your trunk. And you just have to stay firm in your rights because you have to know your rights. You know, what's the name of this lecture? It's called Know Your Rights. So you know your rights when this happens now. An officer can come in. We've been talking to people in the community and, it's not good. You might want to come talk to us and clear this up. Well, who have you been talking to? What are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. They can literally say things that are not true. We've had cases where people have called in the office and the detective is like, they should have done this, or you know what, you'll be okay. We'll take care of this. Or, there was a case where a young girl was assaulted, and the detective told him, it's the business's responsibility to provide security for the kids when they're on a field trip. She called me and she's like, but the detective told me that I should sue the business. I said, they're not attorneys. That's not correct advice. He's just telling you so that he doesn't have to do anything. So that he can walk away and be like, no, that's not my problem. Literally, they can tell you there's something that's not true. Until the point where you have been charged, then they have to tell you the truth. Where you've been charged with a particular crime, this is the evidence against you, blah, blah, blah. They can't make stuff up after that point. But just to get you to say what they want to say, they can make up whatever they want. And I don't think a lot of people in this community know this. I don't think a lot of Americans, not just the Muslim community, a lot of Americans don't know this. That police officers can make misrepresentations for you to volunteer information. They are under no obligation to tell you the truth. So it's important that you know your rights. Okay. I think, that's it for today. Thank you very much. I'll definitely open it up to questions. I'm sure some folks may have some. We're having our 10th annual banquet April 5th, and inshallah we would like for you to attend as well. But I'll open up the floor to questions if you have them. Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair.
Brothers and sisters, you can ask questions, but leave it general. Don't do it private to yourself. I'm going to ask questions, brother. Many of the brothers, they get stops in the airport as they go in, ask them how much money they have on them. And as they coming back, they ask them a question, could be nothing related to them, but fishing for information. Would what you just said apply to the same things?
The simple answer to that is yes. Again, this happens most often when you're traveling back into the United States. And if you're subject to secondary questioning or screening or interviews, there are only particular questions they are permitted to ask you. Where have you been traveling? Where did you stay? Purpose of your trip. But we've had questions asked, how many times a day do you pray? How much money did you take with you? That's borderline because they ask you for your credit rate. They ask you for your credit card information. But did you spend money over there? Yes. But then you can say that, they can ask you that, but they can't ask you, did you fund this political group? That's not allowed. Where did you spend it? That's not allowed. Okay, so, and then we've had questions like, which political party? There's a brother who went to Egypt. He said, did you get involved in the politics over there? Do you support the Muslim Brotherhood? No, you cannot answer. Cannot ask that question. Know your rights. Say, no, I'm not privileged to provide that information. If they give you a hard time, remember the badge name, remember the officer name, cooperate as best as you can, and then you call CARE when it's over and we file a complaint on your behalf. But that's the thing. This is the thing I want everyone in the community to know. Now that you know your rights, Are you going to vehemently advocate them when this is in front of you? When the officer is telling you to get out of the car, if the officer is asking you inappropriate questions, are you going to start yelling and be like, I listened to a CARE presentation, I know my rights? No. Number one answer always is remain calm. Sorry, officer, I'm not privileged to give that information. And another thing that happens, and a lot of this happens in the community, Brother Falali knows this as well, is the misidentification of persons' names that are associated with other people's names. And so to get yourself off of this, tedious exercise of when you come back into the United States from Department of Homeland Security, you can file a complaint with Department of Homeland Security. It's called Travelers Redress Inquiry Program. TRIP for short. Now, I'm not going to advocate that this is the best solution at all. And I will be very honest with everyone in this room, because most people in this room are adults. We don't have very good redress. We don't have very good answers for this problem yet. When DHS, CPB profiles people that are of Middle Eastern descent or Muslims, I'm here to tell you the truth. It's unfortunate. We don't have a very good solution to it yet. It's a very hard fight right now. CARE is advocating in Washington, D.C. to pass a law that would permit us to have a good complaint process, a good way to have, tell people our issue with this and have a good way to have this fixed. But it doesn't exist on the books better than TRIP. And TRIP can be disappointing. I'm not going to convince everyone here TRIP does all the problems. There's a few cases where it helps, but only a few of those cases. So the best thing you can do is know your rights in the questioning process. I can provide that information. It's in the brochure that we're going to pass around as well, what questions are permitted at CPB and Department of Homeland Security and what are not, and what to do. But those rules that I gave you before, they all apply. Remain calm, cooperate. Officer, I do not provide that information at this time. I'm not privileged to provide that information. And they'll probably lie to you too. They'll probably say it again. Well, we got something on you. You might want to cooperate, or it'll be here a long time. And they might even keep you there for a long time. It's just going to make it worse for them later when we file a complaint. But yes, this is a problem. Yeah.
Any other questions?
I have a friend of mine, a police officer, has mentioned to me that 75% of people in the jail, they actually in the jail because they did not know their rights. No. That's why they are in the jail. That's true or not?
Yes. The comment was made that those people that predominantly are in prison, from the Muslim community, everyone. So everyone that's in prison, this is true because I was a defense attorney as well before, and it's true. People don't know what their constitutional rights are, so then they divulge too much information. They don't ask for an attorney. They get intimidated. You literally, and I'm not going to say this is an easy task. When that officer is being intimidating and it's 12 o'clock at night and you're just driving home and he's telling you to get out of the car and he's saying, if you let me search your car, you can go home sooner. I'm not saying it's going to be easy to say, officer, I don't consent to searches. It may not be so easy, but that's a decision you have to make. Your right is to say no. If you understand what probable cause is you've done nothing wrong and he's asking you to search your car. That's the best thing that if he's asking you, can I search your car, you have the right to say no. If he searches your car without asking you, that's another issue, and you have to come and talk to an attorney or come talk to me. I'll let you know whether he was allowed to do that or not. But if he's asking you, your answer is no. I do not consent to searches. So I am not oblivious to the difficulty of this sometimes, especially for the sisters. It can be very scary. Police officer pulling you over, telling you to get out of the car. I need to search the cabin of your car. Yeah, you might capitulate. You might say, okay, I just want to go home. My kids they're hungry, or, I have other things to do. So I'm not oblivious to the difficulty of this task, but I am here to empower you and let you know what your rights are in that situation. Yes, bro.
Also, they mentioned to me that the city law is different than the state law.
Yes.
For example, if the police stop you and say a city police, for example, for just Union police.
Yeah.
Stop you, couldn't find nothing to you.
Yep.
Then they send you to the state
Yep.
law. Well, the state law is a book, it's
Bigger,
book.
yes.
And you find something to...
Yeah. So So the comment is that local laws sometimes are a little confined, a little restricted because they're local. They're only to that city. Sometimes you even have particular offenses only to that city, such as waste management, even speeds, and right turn on red violations. They have very particular type of laws sometimes. So you may not violate those in particular, but you might have violated a greater state initiative that they have, and that happens too.
What is the problem, like, with the police officer, he asked you to search the car and let him search? You don't have anything wrong, you didn't do anything wrong, let him search.
Right. So the question is, if there's nothing in your car, why don't you just let him search it and let you go home? The thing is, you don't want to give that opportunity the same way you don't want to give them the opportunity, the FBI, to have that conversation with them, to give them any chance to find something. Well, maybe your car's not registered. Maybe there's some receipt in there that they can use as probable cause to search you later. Make your life a little bit more difficult. Don't give them anything. That's my advice. Just like those brothers and sisters, like everyone in this room, never done anything wrong, so why can't I just talk to the FBI? I didn't do anything. Same reason. It's the same reason. Also, the other thing is, it's true, I didn't do anything wrong. But if everyone in the community permits police officers, and everyone in the community has never done anything wrong, keeps permitting police officers to do whatever they want, then we are not empowering the community. We are not letting the police officers know that we are aware of our rights, that we are here to defend our rights. And so then from just searching your car, it might go further to other things where they feel permissible to do so. Everyone's heard of the NYPD surveillance spying program, yes? You're giving them authorization to do so because you're not aware. So they might even take it, you give them an inch, they might take a foot. Yeah. Also, one more thing. There was a case I had where he did do that, and he let them check the trunk. There was already a CPB out saying that we're looking for a particular television or a particular item, something like a TV or something like that. They thought they found it in the car, so they took him in. They don't know if this is, how could the officer know directly that this is the same exact TV, but you gave him enough to be like, hey, you need to come in because we're looking for a particular item called, this is called contraband. We're looking for a particular contraband. This TV has been called missing, and I've heard about it, and we see a particular TV. It wasn't even close to the same TV, so you need to come in. You could have avoided all of that. Yeah? Yes?
Along those same lines, so given the fact that it's our right to state that we don't consent to a search of our automobile, doesn't that sort of hint to them that there is more of a probable cause to search our car because of that fact that we state this right?
No, that's actually not. The question is, if you say, officer, I do not consent to searches, doesn't that provide probable cause to search the car? The answer is, simple answer to that is no.
But to distinguish the fact that someone may essentially have something in their vehicle as opposed to someone who may not, they still utilize the same right. So how do the officers, what is their system in being able to
So it's
apply actual...
right. So a more particular question is, what do they use for probable cause? What's enough for probable cause? It's very situational. It's very circumstantial. I can give you a lot of examples that might encapsulate what it looks like for them to authorize them to search your car, even though you said I don't consent to searches. Examples are cigarette butts, smoke, smell of alcohol, items that they think they're searching for that they particularly see. Bags that look like there's maybe green material or white material, something that may look like drugs, needles. These are just circumstantial things that they could use to just search your cabin of your car. This is how small the standard for probable cause is to search an automobile. My law professor in law school, he worked in public defense for 25 years, criminal procedure professor of mine, always said, if you ever commit a crime, don't get in a car afterward. He's joking, but he's saying, the standard to search a car is so low. To be pulled over, you can almost be pulled over for anything. That was his joke. But yeah, the probable cause standard is very low. And then I told you reasonable suspicion is even lower. Oh, based on my expertise, experience, and skill set, I believe a crime is about to take a foot. Let me ask him a few questions. Really? More like what you're saying is it's a black 18 to 25-year-old in Brooklyn with a hoodie on his head, walking home. It's enough cause for them to stop and talk to him. That's how low it is. Probable cause is essentially a little bit higher for a warrant, but to search your car, it's not very high at all. Yeah.
If I don't give a consent to search my car or get into my house, what can happen?
If you let them come into your house, or you say no? Sorry, say it.
If I don't allow them to come in, or if it doesn't allow them,
If you don't allow them to come in, if they don't have a search warrant, or they do have a search warrant? If they don't have a search warrant, they have to leave.
that's your right.
That's your right.
If they want to search my car, and if I don't, or if I say no, I don't.
But they can only search your car if, maybe I forgot this. They can only search your car if you've been pulled over in the car. If your car is parked at your house, you need a warrant for that car to search the car because it's part of the house, just to clarify with everyone. I might have missed that. I'm sorry. But if they don't have a warrant, say no and they have to leave. And they have to come back with a warrant, or they, don't come back at all. Yeah.
So social media, as good as it has been and has helped so many people, and somebody as vocal against U.S. policy as myself on social media like Facebook, at the immigration, I've heard these cases a lot. During at the immigration or the border security, they're asking for people's laptops and their cell phones
Yeah.
and searching that.
They can search all technology. That is permissible. They can search laptops and cell phones without a warrant. At CPB, Department of Homeland Security. FBI and police cannot do that without a warrant. But remember, the Department of Homeland Security operates under different standards. I guess I should have included a presentation on travels and CPB officers, but law enforcement is not CPB. They're not law enforcement. So I was told to give the presentation on law enforcement, but now I'm thinking I should have added the Customs and Border Protection more as well.
Inshallah, we'll do it again and we'll add more.
Yeah.
One more question, brother. Now, you said they could hire a person from anywhere to come and sit between us and spy on us.
Who is it? No.
What techniques or what rights we have to actually, if we feel suspicious of that person, to report them ourselves before?
Yeah, very good idea.
Yep.
So the question is, what can we do to prevent informants coming into our community? Well, there are some telltale signs that you can tell who's an informant. If they're bad, if they're good, you won't be able to find out who they are. But the informant generally is, of course, new to the community. The other thing is they ask awkward, strange questions, such as, what is this masjid's opinion on the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt? Or what is your opinion on the Fort Dix 5? Do you know any brothers that were friends with the people at the Fort Dix 5? And actually there's an imam that is very good at this, and he has reported them to the FBI, and then later you find out he was an undercover FBI officer or an informant. Very embarrassing for them. But we have some imams very good at it. I'm not going to mention who it is, but you can imagine who they are. But that's some signs that you get. They're new, they ask strange questions. And then you see them a lot more often at events such as this. Small events, they're coming not just to Jummah, they come to your home and they permit themselves into all the events and fundraisers and everything like that. And they cozy up to individuals and you're like, yeah, why is this guy, never seen this guy before. Why is he asking what my political affiliation is? But if they're good, you're not going to be able to tell. The guy that did the Fort Dix 5, he made $125,000 for that. That's how good he was.
Jazakallah khair.
I couldn't help but talk about youth, especially when we're talking about youth and informants. Sometimes they start quite early, and you have to be extremely careful and teach your youth coordinators or youth workers to be cautious of who talks, let's do this, let's go and bomb this place, or talking about issues that do not concern us, about international policies or politics that sometimes go way over our head or start pointing the finger as this country or the other country, we should do this to the infidels and language that we Muslims don't even register in our book. we should kill all of our infidels. All the Jews and Christians are enemies of Islam, and Muslims, they are not our friends. We should kill them. We should not be friends with them. All of this, if they start showing on your radar, especially with the youth, and be very, very cautious when it comes to the youth. Talk to the youth coordinators. Make sure that you engage your sons and daughters to find out exactly what is said to their friends, and make sure that we don't like extremism. It affects us directly, but we should definitely not lose the sight of we trust each other, because what we say publicly and what we say privately, alhamdulillah, and what we stick to the law. I mean, it has been proven that Muslims in the United States have been the most law-abiding citizens of the United States. And from 1993, World Trade Center number 1, to 2001, many investigations have taken place. And what it yielded, it's except what Brother Khurram has mentioned, is when there is informant or there is promoters of violence that push some people or some kids or some hot-headed people to say certain things. I would like to also add what Brother Khurram mentioned earlier. When you have a cop whose badge is written on his chest or her chest, it says so-and-so officer, badge number so-and-so, that's easy to decipher. And also with PCB, it's also easy to decipher. But when it comes to the FBI agents, who usually do not come in uniform, they come in a suit and a tie, nicely dressed, nicely combed, you always have the right to ask them, can I have your business card? If anybody shows up to your door, because it could easily be an excuse for a lot of people to commit crimes against Muslims, feeling that somebody will step at the door, say that they're FBI agents, nicely dressed, and you let them in, and they could easily just dare to rob you, not sincerely FBI agents. So you have the right to ask them for their badge and to show you their credentials.
But one thing just to add on that, they don't have the right to provide. They don't have to provide. Did everyone get that? If you ask an officer, unless you're being arrested by that FBI officer, they don't have to provide that information to you.
But you should ask for it, though.
But you should ask for it. And the other thing is, the FBI officers, like you said, they don't come in uniform. I mean, they just don't do that. And yeah, it's true. As I said about the informants earlier, when you hear these, they're egging people on to go into these extremist behaviors, that's a very good telltale sign. Like I said earlier, that's a very, very good telltale sign. But as far as FBI, that's an important factor. You should ask for as much ID as you can. If they deny you, they're not under any obligation until you're arrested, if you are arrested. So that's...
Jazakumullah khair.
Okay.
Jazakumullah khair, brothers, for coming, and well said, good job. And I want to remind the brothers in behalf of the CARE about their 10 annual banquets, so we'll support them inshallah. And Jazakumullah khair, and you can enjoy your sweets.